We'll go ahead and call meeting to order, and this is our 7:30 regular session. We'll call to order, and then I'm going to do invocation. So I've got Pastor Frank from South Valley Church is going to do invocation today, and I want to thank him for being here. I thought I saw him on here.
I'm right here.
Oh, there you are. Hey, Pastor Frank, how you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
I'm going to ask everyone to go ahead and stand for invocation, and at the end, stay standing. A flag will be presented, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, I want to first of all thank you for how good you are to us, and thank you, Lord, for the city council and their leadership, for our mayor, and pray, Father, for their meeting tonight. It's certainly a different world we're living in where we have to meet this way. But Father, progress can still be made, and I pray for unity. I pray, Lord, that you would give them just insight into whatever the issues are that they will be discussing. Just bless their evening together. We ask it in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So, there we go. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to
to
the
the
flag of the United
States of America and to the
Republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for doing that, and mercy for the flag. And I know that was strange, new, and different. And Pastor Frank, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Take care, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Have a good night. The next thing we'll go is we'll do roll call.
Councilmember Cheney.
Here.
Councilmember Gornick.
Here.
Councilmember Orth.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Matthews.
Here.
And Mayor Lyons.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, so closed session report.
Nothing to report, Mayor and Council.
Okay, then we're going to go on to F, the agenda approval, additions and or deletions. Public comment. Public comment will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes each, and it is requested that no comment shall be made during the period on items on the agenda. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda prior to addressing the council. Any handouts for council will be provided to the city clerk for distribution to the council and appropriate staff. Ceremonial presentations. No ceremonial presentations, so we're going to go on to the department and city manager reports.
Mayor, we need to see if there's any public comment before we go on to ceremonial and presentation.
So there's none. So, okay, is there any public comment at this time?
So I did receive one email, and I'll read it to the council. It reads from Chris Stack. Says, hello, I've left voicemails and emails with various people but can't get an answer from anyone regarding the new water treatment plant. Could you please let me know what the status update is on that project? We were told it would be completed by mid to late 2020. If you are unsure, could you please ask about it at the next city council meeting? I would also like to have you ask at the next meeting if we could possibly if it would be possible to either get brighter streetlights or more streetlights to increase visibility and potentially help decrease crime. In addition, a number of street signs are positioned rather far from corners and have little to no reflective qualities anymore. Can we get the signs moved or at least make it so the writing is more reflective and visible at night? Lastly, there are a number of intersections around Lemoore Elementary and the post office area that have no stop signs or yield signs. I used to walk my daughter to school, and on many occasions I felt in danger with her since it is unclear who has the right of way. I know we have a budget shortfall, but stop signs and yield signs, brighter LED bulbs for street lights, and new reflective letters on street signs all seem like reasonable requests. Thank you, Chris Stack. And then that was the only one I have. So if anyone else has, I don't see anyone with raised hands. So I think that is all we have for public comment.
I see it just came up. Somebody would like to pull an item from the consent calendar. Miss Connie Willis.
Yep, I saw that too. So we'll go ahead and go on to the department city manager reports. Ms. Wilson.
So we're still working, teleworking as a result of COVID. We've had quite a few employees impacted by this. We have a couple of our divisions working under essential workers orders through the county. So we're still able to maintain services. Michelle's been super busy on the daily and nightly taking calls on COVID. So that's the biggest thing going on right now. And would council like me to address the wastewater question briefly, or the water treatment plant question briefly?
Yes.
So yeah, the project is a little behind schedule, but due to COVID and shortfalls getting equipment, we've been talking to the state. We are done. We're getting ready to load media to start our testing with the state to put them online. We are expecting comments back from the State Department of Water Resources after the first of the year, so any day. Once we get the recommendations from them, we'll start testing and putting the new water plants online.
Thank you.
And additionally, if you have a concern about reflectivity on signs throughout town, if you go to the cityoflemoore.com, there is actually a spot for resident requests that if you have an issue that you'd like us to look at, if you want to take a few moments to go in there and fill that out, not only does it allow staff, it gets us electronic record of what the issue is, but it'll also keep you informed of the status of your ticket and whether we repair it, don't repair it, or why. So the goal set forth on the city side is we get back to you within 24 hours of those requests. And just a reminder that Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department will be taking down the Christmas tree tomorrow. So tonight, why you shake your head now?
The fire department doesn't take it down.
Oh, my bad. City does or what?
City does.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, anyway, we're taking it down tomorrow. So if you want to enjoy it one last night, tonight's your last chance to go down and check it out. And I'd just like to thank the Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department for another fabulous tree and to make the holidays brighter downtown. Thank you.
So assuming you're the only department to report, yeah, because, okay.
Yes.
So that means we're moving on to the consent calendar. Items considered routine in nature are placed on the consent calendar. They will be considered and voted upon in one vote as a one item unless a council member or a member of the public requests individual consideration. 3-1, approval of minutes, regular meeting, December 15th, 2020. 3-2, approval, denial of claim for the law offices of Dale K. Galipo on behalf of Mr. Abel Bernicia. 3-3, approval of resolution 2021-01, establishing additional city manager authority during COVID pandemic. And do I go to the public first or do I go to council first on this?
You can go to council first and ask if a council member would like to pull anything, and then you can ask the public.
Okay, so would anyone on council like to pull any of the listed items?
I would like to pull 3-3.
3-3, okay.
And looking at the feed, that is the same item Miss Willis wanted pulled as well.
You mean, I thought it was Miss Woloshin, no?
No, Connie Willis.
Oh, it was Connie Willis. I was thinking Connie Woloshin.
No.
Yeah, I would like to have 3-3 looked at as well a little bit longer.
Okay, so would anyone from the public like anything pulled other than 3-3, which already been, okay. Marissa, no hands. I don't know how this works.
Nope.
Okay.
No hands.
So then we are going to accept a motion at this time for 3-1 and 3-2.
I'll make a motion to accept the 3-1 and 3-2 on the consent calendar.
Okay.
I'll second it.
So I have a motion by Ms. Matthews and a second by Mr. Orth. Ms. Matthews,
Aye.
Councilmember Orth,
Aye.
Mr. Councilmember Gornick,
Aye.
and then Councilmember Cheney.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion passes. So then I guess 3-3. Mr. Olson, you want to take that?
So actually, Miss Spear will be taking that one.
Oh, there she is. Finally.
She's here.
She missed the 7 o'clock meeting. I guess traffic was too bad, huh?
Traffic was terrible. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. I understand that there are several questions regarding this particular resolution, so I'll just tell you how it came about, and then if there's additional questions, I'll answer them. So as you know, the rules regarding COVID for employers are ever changing. And so every couple of weeks, there's new laws that come out. You're aware of the Cal OSHA regulations that just took effect on December 1. There's AB 685 that just took effect on January 1, which has to do with reporting requirements. But some of these laws that are coming out also affect us from a budgetary standpoint. So the new laws are actually requiring that the city of Lemoore pay for COVID testing for employees. It's also requiring that we provide paid leave to employees who have COVID or who have COVID exposures. And so a lot of those things that come about throughout these new laws that are being implemented are not things that we have addressed in any of the memorandums of understandings with our bargaining units. When we went back and read the ordinance about the powers of authority of the city manager, it wasn't real clear about whether or not the city manager could make budgetary changes or decisions that would affect the budget in light of an emergency. Sometimes these things happen so rapidly that we don't have time to get back to council to ask for approval in order to make sure that we stay compliant. So what we're asking for in this resolution is a limited scope of authority that is granted to Nathan as the city manager and emergency services director, that when these laws come out specifically related to COVID, and I'm not talking about anything else, just COVID related laws, that if there's a decision that needs to be made from an operational standpoint that might make a modification to an MOU, that can be made at his level to make sure that we stay compliant.
And how long is this supposed to last?
The resolution doesn't have an end date because we don't know when COVID's going to end. If council would feel more comfortable giving an approval to this resolution and only giving him authority until a certain date, we can make that amendment in the resolution. If we're going to do that, my recommendation would be until at least the end of March. Let's try to get us through the next few months of flu and COVID season and see what happens. Because I'm not really anticipating a whole lot of changes. I do know one of the things on the horizon is discussions about vaccines and things of that nature. But I would just like there to at least be some capability for us at Nathan's level to make decisions so that we ensure our employees aren't negatively affected by these COVID rules that are coming out.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Gornick would like.
Nathan, have we had any discussions with any of the groups about the vaccine costs or with our insurance carrier about insurance costs or vaccination costs?
I don't have total costs on vaccinations, and it depends. I think for some first responders, we have the option, and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, of doing the rapid test or just the regular test.
Okay,
And we try to send people to the free testing sites.
Mr. Gornick was asking a question about the vaccinations, not the testing.
Oh, sorry.
Right now, all vaccinations are being handled through the County of Kings for our first responders. And to my knowledge, there's no cost for that. That's not actually administered by the city of Lemoore. The only reason I brought up vaccinations is because there's this very large discussion happening nationwide about whether or not employers are going to mandate vaccines. And so far, there is no law that requires that we do that. But I just brought it up because there are unfunded mandates with these new laws that have come out specifically related to testing. And so if we use that as the litmus test, one could argue that might also be the case for vaccines. But so far, there is no mandate for us to require that our employees be vaccinated. And we don't know the cost because we don't administer them.
You don't know the cost of the vaccine?
No.
There are plenty of them out there, but you've had no, I guess my first question was, you've had no preliminary discussions with any of the groups about the cost of vaccines, or with our insurance. Do we have anything from our insurance carrier that tells us that they will cover vaccine costs? I would think they would.
No, they have not issued anything to us. The only thing that we received from our insurance carrier came out today, and it was just a brief discussion about whether or not an employer could mandate employees to receive vaccines, but there was no discussion about cost or whether or not it was going to be covered by the plan.
Well,
Michelle,
I'd like to see us have a discussion with them about the cost. I mean, no use creating a problem when it may not be a problem. I mean, if we let everybody know that the vaccines are at no cost to them, I would think most people would want to get vaccinated, and particularly first responders, as well as our essential workers in the city, so we can get back to normal in that regard.
Mr. Gornick, I will reach out to our insurance company and I will get that clarification for you.
I guess I'm more comfortable with an end date on this if we have to go with it, but I'm inclined to not do it. But if we end up doing it, I'd like to see a date on it.
Okay, so is there any more discussion on 3-3? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and look for a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, before you accept a motion on this, if you could ask the public if they have any comments since it was pulled.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and open it to the public. 3-3 is open to the public at this time. And if you guys have something to say, I guess there's like a little hand raising icon. I'm sorry, guys, I'm not computer savvy. Oh, okay.
Oh, I have one.
Two.
Connie Lewis would like to speak, so I will unmute her.
Connie, can you hear us?
She needs to unmute on her end.
Miss Willis?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you.
I appreciate the explanation because that is exactly what I was curious what was happening. So what was said about the testing and the leave time, that's what I was anticipating, but I just wanted to make sure. So I'm glad I got to ask it and hear it for myself. Thank you.
Thank you for
You're welcome.
participating.
And then Jennifer Solis.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but we can't see you.
Yeah, that's on purpose. I was wondering if the authority that is given to the city manager, if then the information would be brought to the city council to ratify. So that was my only question on 3-3. Thank you.
Who wants to answer that? You, Michelle?
I'll take it. Mary, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So the resolution actually gives the city manager the authority, and it doesn't require ratification of council. The current ordinance already gives Nathan, or the emergency service director more specifically, the authority to make decisions that would then need to be ratified by council. Our fear with that was that if we had to wait for a following meeting, then some employees would see maybe a reduction in benefit if they had to be outside the workplace. What I failed to mention before, and I apologize, it's just coming to mind now, the CARES Act back in March authorized 80 hours of COVID sick leave for every employee. It exempted public safety employees, but our council had decided to include them. Well, that law expired on December 31st, and we have had several employees that have needed to be out since that has expired. And so they're all kind of sitting in limbo waiting to know what kind of benefit is going to be provided to them. If this resolution had already been authorized, then Nathan could have made the decision to notify these employees that they weren't going to lose paid leave benefits and those types of things that occur that kind of need to be happened in a situation by situation basis. If council would require that those types of decisions be ratified after the fact, then I don't think the resolution is necessary because I think the existing ordinance already affords Nathan that authority. Mary, is that correct?
Correct.
This really isn't trying to take any authority away from council. The whole goal in this is try to make sure that our employees are not negatively impacted by COVID any more than they already need to be. We have had 38 employees that were individually affected by COVID just in the last 6 weeks. And we only have about 120 full-time employees. So that's a pretty significant portion of our population. And now with some of these benefits expiring and the requirement that we provide and pay for testing for everybody that's exposed, which just so you know, everybody that works for the city of Lemoore has already been declared a potential exposure and has already been notified. So we technically are obligated to pay for all of that. So when these warrant requests comes in and things of that nature, we need to be able to have Nathan have the authority to authorize that before it, without it needing to come to council. Unless council says no, in which case those people will have to wait to determine whether their benefits are approved and whether or not their reimbursement for their tests would be approved. And any other potential implication for benefits that could come out of COVID that would, and otherwise would require council approval. Jennifer, I don't know if I answered your question. I'm sorry.
Mr. Gornick?
Yeah, so let me understand this again. So the resolution we have is to give the city manager the authority to address these issues that come down from the state, specifically under COVID.
Correct,
Right.
and only regarding COVID.
So I would like to amend the motion that's there to put an end date of, I'd like to go out to April rather than March.
Okay.
And with the only requirement that I'm not interested in ratification, I would just like to be informed at each meeting or via email, whatever, from Nathan's office or whoever, what you did with respect to addressing those issues, whether you extend the leave or we pay for the vaccines or whatever. I mean, that would be I just like to be informed that we're doing it. That's all, in case somebody stops me and says, hey, how come we can't? And I got some information that says, oh, yes, you can. You know, that kind of.
So there was a motion in there, yes?
Yes, that would be in the motion.
Okay.
To have the only requirement would be to put the deadline in or the extension to April, and then also to request the city manager to report to us when and if he exercises that authority.
Okay.
Mr.
Was
Cornick,
that
for
April 30th?
You know, sorry, this is Nathan. If we could take it to maybe have it expire April 20th. That way, that's a regularly scheduled council meeting. If we need to extend it, we'd be in session. If not, we'd have to. I mean, it's only a couple days. If we go to the 30th, it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah, whatever. I'm happy with taking that recommendation. Move it to the 20th. It's good.
Okay, so the motion is to approve 3-3 with the exception of an end date of April 20th and Mr. Olson to report anything out that this resolution touches on as far as COVID is related.
It doesn't have to be at a board meeting necessarily either. If something comes up and he has to do it and he wants to let us know in a memo or whatever, that's fine too.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Gornick and a second by Councilmember Orth.
I believe it's Cheney.
Oh, was it Cheney?
Mhm.
I'm sorry. So the second is by Councilmember Cheney. So Councilmember Gornick
Yes.
and Councilmember Cheney,
Aye.
Councilmember Ort,
Yes.
Councilmember Ms. Matthews.
Aye.
Did she say aye?
Oh, did you hear? Oh, yeah, I'm on. Aye. Yes.
And I vote aye as well. So 3-3 passes.
Thank you.
And going on, so now we're at public hearing, seeing none. Now we're on to new business, 5-1. This is information only. Kings County Association of Governments, KCAG. Introduction, Mr. Olson.
Yeah, good evening again, Mayor and council members. So Terry from KCAG should be online. Terry, are you online currently? Ms. King?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
so
okay.
Miss Miss Terry King is going to just give council a brief overview of what they do and the functions of the Kings County Association of Governments. So we'll go ahead and let her go.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. Good evening, Mayor and council members and staff. My name is Terry King, and I'm the director of the Kings County Association of Governments. And I just wanted to provide an opportunity to give you an introduction and overview of KCG to the new council members, because there's quite a few of you who are new. Just the mayor who has had a touch of experience with us. So we are an independent agency that functions as a metropolitan planning organization, a regional transportation planning agency, and was organized as a council of governments. We were established originally in 1967 as a joint powers agency. So I'm just going to kind of briefly go over some of the administrative committees and projects we do. So we are governed by a commission, and the transportation activities are governed by the Transportation Policy Committee. The commission is made up of one representative from each of the cities and two representatives from the County Board of Supervisors. The Policy Committee includes the Caltrans District 6 Director. They meet the fourth Wednesday of every month, generally, and our meetings start at 4:30. They are advised by the Technical Advisory Committee. They meet the second Wednesday of every month, and it includes members from each of the cities in the county, Caltrans, the Air District, the Lemoore Naval Air Station, the Touchy Tribe, Kings County Environmental Health, and the Kings County Area Public Transit Agency. I know the Lemoore representative is to be determined tonight, so my goal is to have you fight over who's going to be the representative. So you'll be doing that after this item. So just to identify our annual activities, we prepare an overall work program and budget. This we do every year and provide this to Caltrans. It identifies our activities by work element, identifies the funding sources, the tasks to do the work we're doing, and then also, of course, the budget. So for the current budget, we have about $2.5 million programmed. Much of that is for consulting projects. We have staff available. We have 5 full-time staff and then 2 vacant positions. So some of the activities we do is we administer federal transportation funds that come from the FAST Act. The FAST Act is the latest reauthorization of the Federal Transportation Act. And 2 of the major funding sources that we deal with that you directly benefit from are the Regional Surface Transportation Program and the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program. So first of all, the Regional Surface Transportation Program, even though they started out as federal funds, we exchanged these for state funds. That just gives us more flexibility. There aren't federal strings attached. You get more dollars, more benefit for your dollars. And Lemoore's share of the apportionment for this current year, which is about just shy of $2.2 million, Lemoore's share is about $183,000. So you get that before the end of the fiscal year. And you need to show how you're going to be using that. The other funding source, the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality, or CMAQ, again, our current annual apportionment is just shy of $2 million. And these funds are used for projects that reduce vehicle emissions. That's the main goal. So we program projects, what I'll be talking about later, in the Federal Transportation Improvement Program. And for Lemoore, you currently have projects funded or funding for alternative fuel vehicles, pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and then pedestrian facilities. So quite a bit of money programmed for Lemoore for those air quality beneficial type projects. KCG also administers several federal transit programs that come from the Federal Transit Act. The Federal Transit Act Section 5310 is for nonprofit, elderly, and disabled projects, capital projects. It's a competitive program. And KCG basically reviews the applications and scores them and sends them up to Caltrans. And then they decide what projects get funded. So we're pretty successful at getting funds for our nonprofit agencies under that program. Another program is the Section 5311. This is for public transit, and this is for rural areas. So our apportionment for the latest fiscal year is about $394,000. And that is allocated to both the Kings County Area Public Transit Agency for the CART services and the City of Corcoran for their transit services. There's also a 5311F program that's for a statewide competitive program for transit services that provide service between rural and urban areas. And then the larger pot is the Section 5307. We receive an annual apportionment of that. This is for urban operators, so only CAPTA, the Kings County Area Public Transit Agency, is eligible for this funding source. And it's used for purchasing buses and operating assistance for CART. Our annual apportionment is just a little over $3 million. So it's kind of an overview of all the federal transit programs. And then I want to go into one of our major functions, which is the Regional Transportation Plan and some of the projects and programs that fold into that. So if you can go forward a few slides. I'll talk about the Regional Transportation Plan. It's a 20-year plan. It includes a prioritized list of state highway projects, local road projects, transit, active transportation, aviation, and freight projects. So various modes are covered. We have to prepare this every 4 years. The next update is 2022, so we're just starting that effort, and that'll be scheduled for adoption in July of 2022. One of the main new since 2014 is the inclusion of a sustainable community strategy. And that's required from Senate Bill 375 quite some time ago, where we have to identify projects that would meet targets set by the California Air Resources Board for reducing vehicle emissions from single occupant vehicles only. So just passenger vehicles, not trucks or trains or airplanes or anything like that. So our first crack at preparing the Sustainable Community Strategies, or SCS, was the 2014 Regional Transportation Plan. And that one focused mainly on transportation improvements. And that showed that we were able to meet our targets of reductions. We have to reduce emissions from 1990 levels by 5% by 2020 and 10% by 2035. So we met those targets in 2014. And then our last RTP update was in 2018. And that we focused on electric vehicles, active transportation projects, and increased transit services. And we were able to meet the targets there, but the document is still under review by the state. The next SCS is due for our 2022 RTP, but the targets were increased. So now that we're already in 2020, we don't have to worry about that. But for 2035, they were increased from 10% to 13%. So that seems to be a main focus that the state is really highlighting. So to help us prepare this document and others, we have a travel forecasting model. And this basically is just a computer model that forecasts what kind of traffic will be on our road. So based on land use and the road system, what impacts will there be? And this will help us identify air quality impacts of our land use and transportation projects. We have the base year is 2015, and we go all the way out to 2042. So this model is also used the cities are now required to use vehicle miles traveled to evaluate their local development projects. So our model provides help in the cities doing that required information. We also have a traffic count program. We conduct traffic counts that rolls into our model and our regional transportation plan and others. And then we distribute that information to consultants that need that and to review development proposals. A large focus, both federal and state, is on air quality. Our plans and programs, we have to make sure that we meet or conform to budgets for air quality. And those are developed by the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District in the state. So we help in identifying budgets for those and working with them. So if you could go forward a few more slides, I'll just briefly touch on some of the special projects and the valley-wide coordination we do. Not only do we do the regional transportation plan, but we also prepare a transit development plan. We developed a pavement management system for all the cities in the county. We prepared a regional electric vehicle readiness plan, a regional active transportation plan, and we're currently preparing a regional highway corridor needs study that's focusing on 198, 41, and 43 in the Lemoore and Hanford area. Some of the valley-wide coordination, because we are in an 8-county non-attainment air district boundary, we do a lot of coordination with our other 7 valley agencies.
Did I go too far?
Just a little too far.
Here? Nope.
One more. One more. And one more. They'll be fine there.
There? Okay.
And then just to touch on some of the other valley-wide, we're also a member of the CalVans Authority. So that's the CalVans running around. We're a member agency there. And then we're also a member of the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority for the Amtrak service. And then we're also a member of the California Councils of Governments and the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council. Okay, so some of the transportation improvement programs, this is how we program and identify our priority highway projects and other projects. One of it is the State Transportation Improvement Program, the State Highway Operation Protection Program. The State Transportation Improvement Program is mainly for highway capacity increasing projects like your widenings and interchanges on the state highway system. And then the State Highway Operation Protection Program, that's mainly for all the overlays you see and some of the work that's been done on 198 and 41 recently. That's kind of been a hassle to drive through recently. So to program projects in those documents, we prepare a regional transportation improvement program. And then we also prepare a federal program. So the State Transportation Program, this is how you get your highway projects programmed. This is where you see the highway projects programmed, hopefully, based on the funding that's available. So every 2 years, it's a cycle for the State Transportation Program, or I'm going to call the STIP. And we have a financial plan over a 5-year period. And we get basically what's called a county share. So they identify what's the reasonably available federal and state funds available for this program. And then it's apportioned to each county region based on population and lane miles. So let's say in a good year, there's money available. We might get up to $5 million available every 2 years. But when a project costs $64 million, that $5 million needs to add up for quite a number of years to get a project. So without a sales tax locally, it's almost impossible to get a project done quickly. So what KCG does is a regional transportation planning agency is we nominate our highest priority projects up to its county share. So like, as I mentioned, some of the previous projects were the widening of 198 over to 99, the 19th Avenue interchange on 198, and the 12th Avenue interchange on 198. One of the older projects was the widening of 41 with the Bush Street interchange construction. The next project we are proposing is the last non-freeway segment on 198, you might say, is the 9th Avenue interchange. So we hopefully propose that project in the next regional transportation program for the first phase. You program projects in 4 phases. You have an environmental phase, and then you have a design phase, a right-of-way phase, and finally your construction phase. So the 9th Avenue project, the current estimates based on the different alternatives we have so far, anywhere from $50 to $64 million. So with the Federal Transportation Improvement Program, this is required if you want to actually get your funding. This is for projects that have already been approved that need to be obligated by your local agency. So currently we have a draft 2021 Federal Transportation Improvement Program out. We will be adopting that in January. So this month we'll bring that up for adoption. So last fiscal year, we had about $13 million obligated for projects within Kings County. So that's kind of an overview of the state and federal programs. So now I'm going to go to the local transportation Development Act. We administer these programs. The first one is the Local Transportation Fund under the Transportation Development Act. The second one is the State Transit Assistance. And then we also review transit systems to be able to allocate and apportion this money. So the Local Transportation Fund, comes from 1/4 of 1 cent of the statewide sales tax. So we get about $4.1 million a year. That estimate is provided by the county auditor by February 1st. And then the KCG determines the apportionments to the cities and the county based on population estimates that are available in May. So we identify your shares by March 1st. These funds are available for non-motorized facilities, planning, transit, and streets and roads. The cities and the county file their claims with us by April 1st, and then review those, conduct public hearings for unmet transit needs in April and May, and then we approve the apportionments and allocations in June. So to receive local transportation funds for transit operators, they have to meet a minimum fare box return. For rural areas, it's 10%. For urban areas, it's 15%. So we have to make a determination of unmet transit needs and reasonable to meet, and then we approve those apportionments. So Lemoore's population share of the current year is about $708,000, and that'll be allocated for transportation planning contributions to us, transit contributions for CART, and then directly for your local roads. The state transit assistance, these funds are derived from the sales tax on gasoline and diesel fuel. So these estimates are provided by the state controller by January 10th. These are allocated by population to the transit operators, both Kings Area Rural Transit and Corcoran Transit. Our apportionment for the current year is about $831,000. So again, we have to review all the transit services. We have a Social Service Transportation Advisory Council that assists us in that. And we have members that include transit operators, social service providers, transit users from low-income, elderly, and disabled population groups. And then we also have annual fiscal and compliance audits of the transit operators and the local agencies. We have a triennial performance audit of transit operators and ourselves. And then also the annual report we allocate to the state or provide to the state. So that's kind of an overview of the transit system and some of the regional transportation planning agency activities. The next section I'm going to go to is KCG also acts as the Kings County Abandoned Vehicle Service Authority. So this authority, this money comes from your $1 vehicle registration fee. So when you get your vehicle registration fee, you're paying $1. But from that $1, the county received about almost $118,000. And funds are allocated based on a formula of population and number of vehicles abated by your whoever does your vehicle abatement, whether it's the police department or code enforcement, whoever. It's based on your ordinance. Lemoore's current balance is $56,000, so you have plenty of funds available to get rid of some of those abandoned vehicles that are around town. I've noticed an uptick in some abatements. I know there's a parking lot there on Highland that vehicles have been there for probably a decade. They've been removed, so that's a good thing to see. And then we recently extended this program so it goes out to 2027. You can extend that for 10 years. So we'll do that again, hopefully, based on the pleasure of the Vehicle Abatement Service Authority. Another thing that KCG does is we are an area-wide clearinghouse review. So some of these agencies like Head Start, they have federal grants. Those need to be sent out for review. So that's what we do, is we receive these applications, we send these out to a mailing list for comments, and then agencies send these comments back. We present these to the board and they ratify those comments, and then we notify the state clearinghouse that that activity has been completed so the grant applicant can move forward with their application. We also serve as Census Data Center. So the Department of Finance, again, gives us population estimates by May 1st of every year. The current population of the whole county is 153,608. Lemoore's total population is 26,509. Another thing we do, the last thing I'm going to touch on, is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation Plan. This ties into your housing element of your general plan. This has to be done first. What happens is the California Department of Housing and Community Development provides a housing allocation for the county based on projected housing needs. Now this new allocation is going to be quite a bit more than what we've seen in the past due to the governor's objective of creating more housing units and the state's methodology of calculating the housing needs. So we'll be seeing those numbers maybe a year from now. And that'll apply to those will be available here by next year, in the next year. And that'll cover the period of June 30th, 2023 through January 15th of 2032. When we prepare the regional housing needs allocation plan, that used to be done in-house and funded by the local agencies. This year, through SB or AB 101, we have what's called a Regional Early Action Planning Grant. So we have one-time funding available to do that. So the San Joaquin Valley received almost $19 million, and KCG will receive a total of $480,800 to do that. And so we'll use a little bit of this to prepare the arena, and we'll do this, we call it the arena. We'll do this through a consultant, and then we'll hold some over for administration, and then we plan on allocating the remaining funds directly to the cities and the county based on a formula, which we don't know at this time. It could either be just strictly population or by arena numbers. So the more population you have, the more money you might get, but the more housing units you get, the more money you might get. So that's just something to be decided later. So those are some of the major things I just wanted to touch on. Our office is located in Lemoore, down here on D Street. We're in the advanced building. I don't know if you know, due to chiropractic, we're across the hall from that. But we are here, so we welcome you to come in and stop by and chat with us, and I can certainly provide you with a lot more information about what KCG does.
All right, Ms. King, is that it?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. Does anybody have any questions? Looks like Mr. Gornick might have had a question for you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Gornick, you're muted in the bottom left-hand corner, or you can hit Alt-A.
Got it. Thank
There
you.
you go. We can hear you now.
Okay. Ms. King, could you tell me how it's determined, how traffic counts are determined or intersections are studied?
We generally will review some of our major roadways, like your arterials, and we kind of do a rotating system.
Do you rely on consultants to tell you that, or does the city tell you that, or is that something that we have to
we used to do the counts ourselves, but we got into some issues with that. So now we just hire a firm to do those counts for us at a lower cost and can be done quicker.
But who determines what areas you study?
We will determine that based on our modeling needs and some of the older counts we might need to update, or requests for traffic counts, or some of the newer, like if the cities expand or there's growth development, we might want to redo those counts. We have the latest based on the latest developments that have occurred. So we budget about $10,000 a year, and so we can get quite a few counts done with that. So we're open to suggestions on what counts can be done at what location.
Thank you. And the vehicle abatement money that the city receives, that's at the city's discretion to use those dollars?
Yes, they get reimbursed for the abatements they do.
So when we see vehicles sitting in a driveway or by the side of a house that have been sitting there for 10 years, is that an appropriate use of those dollars to get rid of that vehicle?
Yes, it is. And it's at the city's discretion. They go out based on their own needs or citizen suggestions, you might say. So they go out and do the process.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, thank you, Ms. King. So moving on, or do I need to open this to public or anything like that, or I don't think I do.
No, it was just information only.
Okay, so going on, 5-2, we're going to go to reports and recommendations. Councilmember liaison appointments to regional boards and committees. So when we get started on this, I made a few notes. So there's 3 things, and I'm sorry, Mr. Olson, we might have to take some of these away from you, because currently right now, unless you wanted to chop them up, guys, the Kings County Area Public Transit and the Kings County Government and the Kings County Vehicle Abatement, all 3 of those things should kind of be considered one item because they meet one after another, boom, 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 right in a row. And that's all three of those happen on the fourth Wednesday, and they start at 3:30, and then the next one goes at, oh, I can't remember what time it was.
4:30.
4:30, and then the last one's following that as soon as that meeting's done. So if you consider all three of those as a one-person item, the only other two that are open is the San Joaquin Valley Air Quality and then the South Fork Kings. So there's only three things available, and yet we still have 4 council members with no boards. And I currently sit on the Commission on Aging and the King's Waste, and if one of you guys had a burning desire to sit on one of those, I would be willing to let go of one of them. But Nathan does sit on the Mosquito, the EDC, and KCAO. So, and the only reason why Mr. Olson sits on those three is because technically, I guess you don't have to have an elected official sitting on those. So if one of you guys wanted, had a desire to sit on one of those, we could go ahead and steal one of them away from him. That way everybody has at least one board to sit on. So I don't know how you guys want to do this. And I did get some kind of email. I don't remember who this came from, probably Marissa. And it showed that Mr. Orth had an interest on, like I said, those three, the Kings County ones. Miss Patricia, Miss Matthews had interest on EDC. And then it looks like the Kings Waste, South Valley, and the South Fork. We do need a principal and an alternate. So with that being said, I'm going to let someone else kind of put 2 cents in.
Well, how about the water?
The water, the King, no.
South Fork Kings.
Oh, the South Fork Kings. Okay, so.
I would be interested in that.
Did you say you wanted to be a part of that one? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Gornick?
I would be interested in volunteering.
Okay. Ms. Matthews, did you want to be the principal or did you want to be an alternate for that?
I'm good with either one. I can be an alternate. That's fine.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and put Ms. Matthews on that one for an alternate, and we'll let Mr. Gornick be the principal. Did anybody want to know anything from either Nathan or myself as far as KCAO, Aging, EDC, Mosquito, or King's Waste? Does anybody, because there's only 2 that are open.
I'd like to sit on
Which one, Mr. Orth?
the KCAO.
The KCAO? Mr. Olson, do you have a problem letting Mr. Orth sit on that, or? As soon as you unmute.
You're muted, Nathan.
Stuart, that was Cheney wanting to do it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
On my side, you guys sound alike. I'm sorry. Mr. Olson?
Sorry about that. I was trying to click on the icon on the bottom because I pulled up the page and I was adding notes to it. No, KCAO, the boards I currently sit on, they did express that they'd like to keep me on their boards, but it's at the discretion of council, so it's entirely up to you all. I have no problem doing it. I also have no problem letting council do it.
Okay, so we're going to make you the alternate, Mr. Olson, if you're already there. That way, because I know they have to do things where, it's difficult for them to do whatever they do. But we'll go ahead and put Mr. Cheney on that one. Would anyone else like to steal any of Nathan's boards and commission? He's only got 2 left. He's got EDC and Mosquito. Okay. So then let's move on to the Kings County, all the public government and abatement. Mr. Orth, you showed an interest on sitting on those. Yes?
On the Kings County Association of Governments and Vehicle Abatement, yeah.
Yeah, all 3 of them. So do you want?
Yeah, I saw you needed to do all 3 of them. It makes sense, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because last time we did it, I don't know what we were thinking. Eddie Neal sat on 2 of them, and I sat on 1 of them. And he got to the point where he kept asking me, "Hey, why don't you just take all 3?" And I was like, "All right." So we'll go ahead and put you, Mr. Orth, Does anybody want to be the alternate for that?
I'd like to be.
Mr. Cheney.
Shane, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. And then the Kings County Commission on Aging. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to stay on it. I'm comfortable there. If anyone wants to take it from me, by all means, I'm willing to share. Nobody? How about an alternate? Does anybody want to be alternate on that?
I'll be an alternate.
Ms. Matthews. And then there's the EDC. Does anybody want to be the alternate for Mr. Olson in case he can't make it? Does anybody have any experience with the EDC?
I'll do the alternate for Nathan if you can't make it.
I was kind of leaning that way, Mr. Gornick. And then there's the mosquito abatement. Does anybody want to be the alternate for that? Oh, Mr. Orth? Okay, we'll put you down. I'm teasing. Does anybody want to be the alternate on that? You know what? I'll go ahead and take it because I've sat on it only a couple times, and it's actually kind of a fun committee to sit on. Then there's the Kings Waste and Recycling, which is another one that I sit on. So I feel kind of bad, guys, because I'm on 2 boards, and if anybody wants to steal that one away from me, by all means.
I'll take it from you.
You want to be the main one? Okay, I'll be your alternate. So are you the principal on anything yet, Ms. Matthews?
No, this will be the first.
Okay. I'll be your alternate. And then that brings us to the San Joaquin Valley Air. Does anybody want to sit or be the?
I'm interested in either one. I'll do either principal or alternate, whatever.
Okay. If someone else said something.
Shane did. I'll take the alternate or the primary.
So, Mr. Cheney, are you the primary yet on anything? Yeah, you are. You got KCAO.
Yeah.
So you guys both
one.
have one. So you guys want to flip a coin, or does someone want to take the bull and be the principal?
I'll be the principal.
Ms. Matthews. And then Mr. Cheney.
Yeah.
And it looks like the South Fork Kings, we already have Mr. Gornick
Right.
and Ms. Matthews. So I think that's it. I think that's all of them. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
So I'll make a new list and it'll be emailed out. And then I will also email out all the points to the points of contacts for each of the boards. I'll email them your contact information so they can get a hold of you and email you guys the agendas moving forward.
Will you do me a favor on the list when you put the list out?
Mm-hmm.
Can you put the Kings County vehicle abatement? Can you put that? Can you trade that with the Kings County Commission on Aging? That way you have all 3 of them kind of right in a row because, like I said, it's kind of a one-person item.
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we're done with our boards and commissions. So moving on, we're going to the brief city council reports and requests.
Do we need a motion on that, Mary?
No, you don't. That was within the authority of the mayor to appoint.
Okay.
So, city council reports. Let's go to Councilmember Cheney.
I have nothing.
Okay. Councilmember Gornick.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that is this the time when we make a request for the future?
Sure is.
Okay.
Yes.
But I'd like us to have a discussion about meeting times, about when we meet. And it's not an urgent matter. It's just one that I'd like to have a little bit more information on. And I'm wondering if staff could kind of pull together all the various Kings County agencies and committees that are available and let us take a look at what times they meet. My intention is that I just think that we meet sometimes too late in the day. Sometimes I'd like to hear a little bit more from our staff or department heads on issues that they see, closer to the problems that are out there, whether it be the streets or public works or police, things of that matter. And also, if it was a little bit more in the day, I'd like to see the council be a vehicle for an opportunity for students to come to observe council at work. Just some thoughts of mine. I'd like us to have a discussion about it. The other thing is the request that was made earlier of a member of the public about the street lights. Do we have anything from Public Works that gives us some kind of an idea of what areas are lit properly and what areas are not? Or is that something that police provides to us, or do they have some concerns about areas that are lit well and are not? And then Nathan mentioned the sewer treatment. I've only been in office just a little couple of weeks, but I've had a couple of calls already from people about the odors emanating from the sewer treatment facility and south of 198. And I'd like to get an update on the status of that facility and what we're doing there. And I know last year we had a project on sidewalks dealing with, or maybe it was 2 years ago, about repairing sidewalks that are cracked, whose responsibility it was. And I think we paid half of it and the homeowner paid a portion of it or something like that. And I just want to know if we're going to bring anything like that back, or was it a success, or just like to have a discussion about that at some time. Nothing urgent for the next meeting, but something that we can address in the next couple of meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Orth.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, Ms. Matthews.
I just want to thank the fire department for the tree. Having that up there, it does really make a difference downtown. So I do appreciate them doing that for us. And downtown looked fantastic this Christmas season. I'm going to be sad to see all the lights go. But other than that, just thank everyone for attending. We had a lot of people attending online, which was great. It was good to see some faces. So that's all I have.
Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and jump on Ms. Matthews' little wagon right there. I wanted to thank Ray Greenlee too for the downtown. The downtown looks great. All the trees, they call them twinkle lights, which I don't call them twinkle lights. They're just lights to me. But all the trees got rewrapped with new lighting. And already some of the lighting's already messed up. You know, people like to come along and crush a bulb or whatever, so it messes up some of the lights. And also all those trees were trimmed, so downtown looks great. And Ray Greenlee's crew, they did a really good job. And the Christmas tree, I'd like whoever's paying attention or watching, we talked about it earlier, that Christmas tree is the first tree that I can remember we haven't had to put any plugs in it. And tonight's the last night that it's going to be down there, because it's getting taken down tomorrow. And I don't know, every time I go downtown in the evening, I see that tree and it looks great. I don't know, it gives me a little bit of pride. I had something to do with it. I'd also like to thank Pastor Frank from South Valley. You know, he got on here on the Zoom thing and did invocation for us. That was really neat. And I'd like to thank the police department, the fire department, and all the city staff. This whole thing is still, every day it's something new. I mean, I can't believe I'm having council right here in my kitchen, but here I am doing it. So that's all I really have. Got my summer social crab mallet. We're adjourned.